Good evening, bookies. My name is Hannah, and welcome back to Top 10 Tuesdays. So, ignore my voice today. I have all this stuff up here. I blame it on the trees, so I think I'm pretty sure I have allergies. Never had them before. Actually, I think I had them a little bit last year, but not nearly as bad as I have them this year. My nose is clogged. My voice sounds weird, but just ignore it. Because today we are back with Top 10 Tuesdays as promised. So today I actually have a little bit of a change on my usual Top 10 Tuesdays. Today we are talking about the top 2 books from my top favorite. Most of them are genres. Some of them I kind of just did for fun. They're like sub-genres, stuff like that. So you guys are getting 20 books instead of the usual 10. So how this is going to happen is I'm just going to say what genre it is, show you my 2 favorite books, and then move on. I think there is one genre or sub-genre or little not plot point, but like little point that has 3 books because it has a runner-up. I couldn't decide between them. So one of them will have 3 books in it. So let's just get going. So the first genre or subgenre or whatever that I chose was aliens/space. So the first book that I have for my aliens/space thing is These Broken Stars by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. I still love this book. I think about it all the time and I really do want to reread it. This does take place in space and on like an unknown planet. I haven't read this book in like 3 or 4 years. It's really been a long time. But I really do love this book, and so I was like, I'm going to include it in this one. Let's move on. Okay, the next one I definitely know has aliens, which is why it's in this group here. And that is Obsidian or Lux from Jennifer L. Armentrout. I like this series. I love this series. I haven't read Opposition yet, but I'm fine currently not reading it. I'm not really feeling the urge to read these yet, but one day it will come. Let's move on. Okay, the next genre that I have is contemporary. I'm really not a huge contemporary person, so I'm kind of like, I have to be in a very specific mood for contemporary. But I've discovered that the 2 books that I chose have kind of a backlying theme. And if you don't notice it when I show you both of them, I probably will point it out at the end of them. I just think it's kind of funny, but it's also kind of horrible. Let's go. So the first contemporary book that is my favorite, one of my favorites, obviously, it's probably my number 1 favorite, is Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. I was expecting to say something else. I don't know why. I love the book. I love the movie. I just loved everything about this. I mean, I know the ending. Spoilers. I love the ending. I know it was horrible, but I love the ending. So, for Me Before You, I knew what the ending was going to be because there was like, I would be very unhappy if it ended any other way, which is again horrible, but that's how I saw it. Okay, with my next book, you should understand now what kind of contemporary books I'm into just from the 2 books I'm showing you. The next one is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. You guys understand what the underlying thing is? Obviously, it's spoiler alert. If you don't want to hear it, mute it, and I will put spoilers right here. Obviously, it's people dying at the end. Apparently, I only like contemporary books where people die. The Fault in Our Stars was the first ever contemporary book that I've ever read, and it has a special place in my heart. I think the movies are great. I think the books are great, and apparently I just like. So, for the next genre, we have urban fantasy, which if you don't know what that is, it's where like magic happens in the real world instead of in like a different world. Because like I've got urban fantasy on my list and then I've got high fantasy on my list. So the difference is high fantasy is where like the only way I can think of it is like The Hobbit or ACOTAR, things like that where they live in a world where magic is known and like it's just a totally different place. Okay, urban fantasy is like a girl, this isn't specific, like where a girl is like living her normal life, you know, she's going to school and all this jazz, and then it's like, boom, magic, here you are. But I have 2 for urban fantasy, and usually I would go for my main, City of Bones, but I don't remember it, and that's sad because I know it's a great series. So for my 2 favorite urban fantasies, the first one I have is A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. I love this book. Oh my gosh, I love this book so much that the day that I finished it, I went to the bookstore and I picked up its sequel, which I haven't finished, but I still love the sequel. It doesn't have a sequel sickness at all, FYI. So I really love this book. That's why it is my, these 2 are very equal in my book. Let's just move on. The second one in urban fantasy, this is probably my favorite urban fantasy book out of these 2. These are my 2 favorites. This one wins just a little bit more. Just a little bit. So this is Tiger's Curse by Colleen Hooke. I love this book. Emilia loves this book. This is a fantastic book. And like, the other one has obviously witches, vampires, demons in it. I think that, yeah, demons. This one is literally just like an Indian prince who turns into a tiger, and it's fantastic, and I love it so much. So yeah, there's that one. So next I have the high fantasy. One of these I'm a little questionable if, no, it's high fantasy. It's gotta be high fantasy. So with one of these, I just barely finished reading it, and so everything is super clear in my head, and I love this book. So I'm thinking right now it is one of my favorites in high fantasy, but only because I just finished it and I really loved it. I don't know if that'll change in a while because I'm reading another really high fantasy book or not. So currently, these are my 2 favorite in high fantasy. Y'all should have seen this one coming though, because I talk about this one all the time and it will forever be one of my favorite books. That is Incarnate by Jodi Meadows. I feel like I talk about this book so much, but it is such, like, I feel like everybody should read this book because it's so good. It's such an amazing book. Anyway, let's move on to my next one. Okay, so this one I finished reading recently and I loved it, so this has got to be on my list. It is Ace of Shades by Amanda Foody. I read this so quickly. Now quickly, I didn't read it in one day. I read it in like 3. But still, that's quick to me, considering this is the first book I've read in a really long time. I love this book. I thought it was so cool. I thought the world was just kind of like, I really just sunk into the world. And I was very like, I knew everything about the world, and it's a little complicated, the world, but it's not so much complicated that I was like bored. I really, really, really liked this book, and I really, really, really liked the characters. Characters were cool. Next. Okay, for the next one, we're switching things up a little bit, and we're doing graphic novels / manga. So the first one I have is Maximum Ride graphic novels. I own the actual books and I've read them, and these are just cool. It's cool to see the characters like drawn out. I love them. I really do love these graphic novels a lot. Okay, my second one on this list, let it be known that I do not read a lot of graphic novels. I've heard about this one a lot on BookTube community, and I'm sure you guys probably have too. If not, here you go. You're hearing it for the first time. It is Saga. Well, who's it by? Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. It's Saga. This is, I don't know how many they have out of this. I know they have at least 6. I only own 3 though. If you guys are considering picking up graphic novels, these are like, there's a lot of story, there's a lot of like background, there's a lot of things you need to know, but it's super easy because they explain it so easily. It's just a super good graphic novel. If you guys are interested in it, I'd suggest go pick it up. So the next genre that I have on my list is retellings, and if anybody knows me, you should know that I love retellings. I really just love anything retelling with an author's twist on it. So the first retelling book that I have on my list is Cinder by Marissa Meyer. Marissa Meyer does great retellings. I don't know if her newest book, Renegades, is a retelling at all, but I know like Heartless is, and then obviously this. Fairest is, I think. But like, I literally just love the way that she can incorporate little differences but still have the parallels be there for what's like, for what fairy tale she's rewriting, because it's like Cinder is its own amazing book, but it's also Cinderella, and I love it so much. Now, the next one I knew was a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I love the way she took it to such an extreme, and like it's an amazing book, but I don't know what retelling the second one is or the third one. But the first retelling is obviously Beauty and the Beast, and it's Heckyeahbooks, A Court of Thorns and Roses. Oh, you guys should have seen this one coming. I love this book so much. Let's move on. So the next genre that I have is dystopian. I've decided to choose just two of my favorite dystopians. I'm not a huge dystopian reader either, so it's kind of amazing that I've read quite a few dystopians. But let's just go. So the first book that I have on this list is Gone by Michael Grant. This is where all the adults disappear and the kids are kind of left to their own devices, which turns out to be kind of dangerous. And I just love this book because there are some kids in this book who try to keep the system justified and correct, and then there are others who are just completely chaotic. I read this book a long time ago, but I could still remember quite a bit about it. The next one is coming out as a movie, so I should probably reread it pretty damn soon, and that is The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. I read this one a really long time ago too, and I know that it's coming out as a movie. I've seen the trailer and it looks awesome, but I really do want to reread this before I go see the movie, but I kind of just want to go see the movie. Okay, so the next genre that I have is historical fiction. This is the one that has 3 books in it because I couldn't just choose 2. So like there's my favorite, and then there's 2 that are tied that I want to show you guys. So let's just go. So my all-time favorite historical fiction currently is Vengeance Road by Erin Bowman. This is the one that is not tied with anything. This is not my first historical fiction, but like I'm really into westerns, and I'm really into like girls dressing up as boys, and I'm really into stuff like that. I love this book so much that I think in like 2016 I gave it Book of the Year award, right? It's in one of my old videos, like my first ever, Rule or the Book Tags video. But yes, this is my favorite historical fiction. So the next 2 books I have are The Bronze Horseman by Paulina Simmons and Like a River Glorious by Ray Carson. This is the second book to Walk on Earth a Stranger. I loved Walk on Earth a Stranger, but I loved Like a River Glorious a little bit more. So these 2 are tied as my second favorite historical fiction. So the next genre that I have, I don't own one of these books, but it's very much stood out to me as one of my favorite books of all time because it scarred me. Man, this book scared the shit out of me. That book is Coraline by Neil Gaiman. The movie was scary, but the book was scarier. This will stand out as one of my favorite standalones. This book was horrifying to me, and it will stand out as one of my favorite books of all time because it was like the first book that I've ever read where I was reading it in school and I was legitimately horrified and I was scared. But it's such a good book. Let's move on to my next standalone. Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater. This was such a huge change on her writing for me because it was a couple years ago. I was very much into her Shiver series, and when I found out that she had this, I was like, well, what's this about? And I read the back and I was like, that sounds so interesting and different from werewolves, and I picked it up and I loved it. And there's a recipe in the back of this book for November cakes, and I will make them very seldomly. I've made probably 3 batches of them. There is a picture of my November cakes on Instagram, right here, there. If you guys are interested, that's what they turned out to look like. They were super good though. Anyway, let's move on. So, the next 2 books that I have, the next genre is not a genre at all. I wanted to have a little bit of fun for my last genre. Not genre, my next category. And the next category I chose was 2 of my favorite covers from my new books that I bought in the last couple months. So I went through like kind of the new books that I bought recently, and I decided I'm going to choose two of my favorite covers, and I did. So, first one I have is Renegades by Marissa Meyer. This is a really cool cover to me. I feel like it's very, hold on, I'm trying to think of the word. Future utopia, where it's like all these futuristic buildings and like the colors are just really cool, and then the lighting change, the gradients, ooh, on point. I love it so much. Okay, so the next one that I have was in my last book haul, and I had to choose between two of these covers, and I chose this one because it is literally, it's so pretty. I think it's the prettiest cover out of the two, and this is Reflection by Elizabeth Lim. I just love like the mountains in the background and like how there's certain things that are a little lighter to kind of draw your attention to them, like her sword and the mountains, and then this lotus. I think that's a lotus flower down there. I'm not quite sure. I'm probably an idiot. But this is it for Top 10 Tuesdays. I will see you guys in a week for another Top 10 Tuesdays. I'm going to try to get into this again. You guys also will be getting another video later on this week, probably Thursday or Friday. The schedule's a little iffy, but you will be getting a video every Tuesday from now on. So, yes, thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you guys in the next video. Rock on.